When did you turn the tables on someone trying to scam you? My mechanic charged me $120 for diagnostic consultation after I dropped my car off and he asked what was wrong with it. I told him it was making a weird noise when I turned left. He said, okay, we'll take a look, and I left. The next morning they called saying they found the problem, a worn CV joint, and it would be $380 to fix. I agreed since I needed my car for work. When I picked it up that afternoon, the bill showed the $380 repair plus an additional $120 charge labeled diagnostic consultation. I asked the counter guy what that was for. He seemed confused and called over the manager, Susan. She looked at the bill and said, well, Mike had to listen to you describe the problem to know what to check. I said, you mean the 30 seconds where I said it makes noise when turning left? That's professional diagnostic assessment, she replied. We have to document the customer's reported symptoms before beginning any work. I pointed out that Mike never wrote anything down during our conversation. Susan said they keep mental notes first, then document later. I asked to see this documentation. She said it was for internal use only. I called Mike over and asked him what he remembered from our conversation. He scratched his head and said, something about noise? Susan quickly interrupted, saying Mike was busy and walked him away. I told Susan this was ridiculous. I was being charged for having a normal conversation about my car problems. She said the shop policy was clear. Anytime a technician evaluates customer-reported issues, it's billable as diagnostic time. I asked to see this policy in writing. Susan said it was company proprietary information. I said I'd dispute the charge with my credit card company. She said I signed a service agreement that included all diagnostic fees. I asked to see that agreement. Susan fumbled through some papers and produced a generic form I'd signed. It mentioned diagnostic fees, but nothing about charging for basic conversations. I told her I was paying for the repair, but not the consultation fee. Susan said the charges were bundled and non-negotiable. I either paid the full amount or they'd send it to collections. That night I researched automotive billing practices online. Most shops include initial problem assessment in their base diagnostic fee, which I wasn't charged separately for. This consultation charge seemed to be double dipping. The next day I called Susan back and calmly explained that charging separately for listening to customer complaints was unethical. She got defensive and said if I didn't like their business practices, I could take my car elsewhere. So I decided to fight fire with fire. I drafted an invoice addressed to the shop for $120 labeled Vehicle History Documentation Service. The description read, provided comprehensive operational analysis and symptom reporting for car. I mailed it with a cover letter explaining that since they considered customer input valuable enough to charge for, I was billing them for the expertise I provided. 2 days later, Susan called me, her voice shaking with anger. What is this bill supposed to be? You can't charge us for talking to our mechanic. I said, actually, that's exactly what you did to me. I provided expert testimony about my vehicle's symptoms, saving your mechanic hours of guesswork trying to replicate the problem. Susan said it was completely different because they were the professionals. I replied that I was the expert on my own car's behavior, and my diagnostic input was clearly valuable since they based their entire repair strategy on my description. She threatened to sue me for harassment. I said that was fine. We could meet in small claims court where I'd ask the judge to review both our billing practices and see which one made more sense. Susan hung up on me. An hour later, the shop owner called me personally. His voice was calm but tired. Look, I heard about this situation with Susan and your car. What is this bill supposed to be? I explained the whole story from the beginning. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment, then started laughing. You know what? Fair point, he said. Susan's been getting a little creative with the billing lately. That consultation charge is BS. We've never charged for listening to customers before. He apologized, and both charges got dropped.